It started like any normal Tuesday morning at Oxford High School. Students were heading to class, chatting with friends, and settling into their day. But suddenly, everything changed. Panic broke out as gunshots echoed through the halls, and students and teachers scrambled to hide behind locked doors, praying for safety. How could something like this happen? Who was responsible, and were there any signs it could have been stopped? As the pieces came together, the story that unfolded was both shocking and heartbreaking, leaving a community searching for answers. Ethan Crumbley was born on April 28, 2006, in Atlantic Beach, Florida, USA. He was the only child of James and Jennifer Crumbley, a couple whose turbulent relationship was marked by substance abuse, infidelities, and a shared interest in horses and firearms. Despite their issues, the Crumbleys maintained stable incomes, working for a marketing and business development company. However, between 1995 and 2005, they accumulated several minor legal offenses, including check fraud and DUI charges. When Ethan was still an infant, his parents' employer relocated them to the picturesque town of Issaquah, Washington. This is where Ethan spent the early years of his childhood. From a young age, he displayed troubling behaviors, including a peculiar fascination with violent events and a deep interest in shooter video games featuring powerful weapons. While these signs were concerning, his parents dismissed them as harmless. In 2014, when Ethan was 8, his life took a drastic turn. His family began moving frequently across the country, eventually settling in Oxford, a small town in Michigan. These constant moves disrupted Ethan's ability to form meaningful friendships, leaving him introverted, insecure, and prone to depressive tendencies. The family's internal struggles also intensified. Neighbors later reported that James and Jennifer often left Ethan alone at home, sometimes for entire nights while they drank at local bars. With little supervision or emotional support, Ethan was left to fend for himself. He learned to prepare his own meals and spent many nights alone, as his parents frequently stayed out late. Disturbingly, Ethan did not have access to a phone to call for help in emergencies, forcing him to rely on neighbors in difficult situations. This lack of parental care began to take its toll. Ethan's academic performance suffered, and he became increasingly isolated. By 2021, at the age of 14, he enrolled at Oxford High School. Adolescence only magnified his struggles. Ethan failed to connect with most of his peers, though he eventually formed a close bond with a fellow student whose identity remains undisclosed. This friendship became a rare source of solace for Ethan, who confided in his friend about his home life and feelings of despair. Over time, however, his messages grew darker. In early 2021, Ethan's text to his friend revealed disturbing thoughts about violence. He once recounted capturing a baby bird in his yard, tormenting it until it died, and then preserving its severed head in a jar filled with liquid. He later placed the jar in the girls' bathroom at school, horrifying students who stumbled upon it. Reports suggest that Ethan's messages alarmed his friend, though it is unclear if the friend sought help or advice on how to address the situation. Ethan also began texting his mother about his unsettling experiences at home. On March 17th, he claimed their house was haunted by a demon that threw objects around. Despite his pleas for a response, Jennifer ignored his messages. Instead, She discussed them with James, who dismissed Ethan's claims as attention-seeking behavior. In late October 2021, Ethan's emotional state deteriorated further when his best friend moved away, leaving him more isolated than ever. By mid-November, his social media posts began to alarm other parents at his school, who feared for their children's safety. Authorities assured parents they were investigating concerns, but some families still felt their children weren't safe at school. On November 26, during Black Friday sales, James purchased a semi-automatic handgun from a store in Oxford. He gave it to his son, Ethan, as an early Christmas gift. Proud of his new possession, Ethan posted a photo of the weapon on social media, calling it a beauty and adding a heart-eye emoji. Jennifer also shared about their weekend trip to the shooting range, referring to it as a bonding day with her son. Reports indicated they used only half of the 100 rounds James had bought. On the Monday following Thanksgiving break, classes resumed at Oxford High School. That morning, a teacher caught Ethan searching for ammunition online and reported it to school officials. Emails and calls were sent to his parents, but James and Jennifer did not respond. Confronted about the incident, Ethan explained it as part of his interest in firearms, a family pastime. Jennifer later texted Ethan, jokingly advising him to learn not to get caught next time. The incident sparked rumors of a potential threat, prompting some students to stay home. Despite the unease, November 30th began like any other school day. However, during morning classes, a teacher discovered a disturbing drawing on Ethan's desk. The illustration featured a gun pointing at the words, "The thoughts won't stop. Help me," along with violent imagery, including a bleeding figure accompanied by text stating, "The world is dead, and my life is useless." The teacher photographed the drawing and reported Ethan, who was promptly sent to the counselor's office. School officials called James and Jennifer, urging them to come in. When they arrived, they were shown Ethan's drawing. Though Ethan had attempted to obscure parts of the image, the original photo provided by the teacher revealed its full, unsettling content. The school recommended that Ethan receive professional counseling within 48 hours, warning that failure to act could result in a report to Child Protective Services. Despite these concerns, Ethan's parents declined to take him home, insisting he remain at school. Crucially, they failed to inform staff that he had access to the handgun they had recently gifted him. No one thought to search Ethan's backpack as a precaution, and he was allowed to return to class. At 12:51 p.m., surveillance cameras captured Ethan entering a bathroom with his backpack. Another student later recalled hearing the distinct sound of a gun being loaded. Moments later, Ethan emerged with the weapon and began shooting at students in the hallway. Witnesses described his actions as methodical and deliberate, targeting anyone in his path. Chaos erupted as teachers and students implemented lockdown procedures, barricading doors and windows. An announcement over the intercom confirmed the presence of an active shooter. Calls flooded 911, with over 100 made within minutes. Law enforcement quickly arrived, evacuating students and securing the scene. After firing at least 32 rounds, Ethan retreated to a bathroom, abandoned the gun, and surrendered to a deputy without resistance. The aftermath was devastating. 4 students lost their lives, and 7 others, including a teacher, were injured. Among the victims, the story of Justin, 17, stood out as especially poignant. A senior at the school, Justin reportedly confronted Ethan Crumbley during the attack, stepping in to shield a freshman student. Ethan ordered Justin to kneel before shooting him. Severely injured, Justin succumbed to his wounds the following day in the hospital. Investigations later revealed that Ethan had not specifically targeted any of the students who died that day, as no evidence pointed to personal animosity. However, Rumors circulated that Ethan might have been bullied at school, though authorities did not confirm this. Ethan was placed in isolation under suicide watch after his arrest. As detectives analyzed his phone records, they discovered a chilling text from his mother, Jennifer, sent at 1:22 p.m. during the shooting, begging him, "Don't do it." Meanwhile, James Crumbley, upon hearing news of the attack, checked his home and realized the handgun he had given Ethan was missing. At 1:37 p.m., he called 911 to report the missing firearm, suspecting his son might be the shooter. Investigators later found that the gun had come with a safety lock, which the Crumbleys never removed from its packaging. In the hours following the shooting, the Crumbleys withdrew money from their accounts and fled their hometown, allegedly fearing backlash from enraged neighbors who blamed them for Ethan's actions. Many questioned their decision to abandon their son during such a critical time. On December 1st, Ethan Crumbley, 15, was publicly identified as the shooter. He faced 24 criminal charges, including 1 count of terrorism causing death, 4 counts of first-degree murder, 7 counts of assault with intent to murder, and 12 counts related to firearm use during a felony. During his first court appearance, Ethan pleaded not guilty but was denied bail and transferred to a county jail. That same day, students and community members created a memorial outside Oxford High School, leaving flowers, letters, and mementos to honor the victims. The outpouring of grief was palpable, with students consoling each other amidst tears. As investigations continued, authorities searched the Crumbley home, recovering a journal in Ethan's bag that outlined his plans for the attack. The chilling discovery added weight to the prosecution's case. Meanwhile, rumors of similar threats led to the closure of several schools across Michigan as a precaution. On December 3rd, in an unprecedented legal move, prosecutors charged Jennifer and James Crumbley with 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter, holding them partially responsible for their son's actions. A judge issued warrants for their arrest after they failed to appear at their arraignment. Law enforcement launched a manhunt, offering a $10,000 reward for information on their whereabouts. That night, a Detroit business owner called 911 after spotting a woman near a suspicious vehicle parked outside an industrial building. Early the next morning, on December 4th, police found the Crumbleys hiding in a warehouse, sleeping on an air mattress. They were arrested on the spot. During their arraignment, Jennifer and James were placed in separate rooms due to inappropriate displays of affection. Both pleaded not guilty to the charges and were each given a $500,000 bond. Reports later revealed that the couple had sold their home and horses to cover legal fees, leaving them without a residence if released. Prosecutors argued that the Crumbleys had ignored clear signs of their son's deteriorating mental state. Text messages between Ethan and Jennifer showed the boy expressing disturbing thoughts, which she had shared with James. Despite this, the parents reportedly spent several nights each week at a barn caring for their horses and were allegedly involved in extramarital affairs. On December 13th, Ethan appeared in court for a probable cause hearing. His attorneys requested a transfer to a juvenile detention center, but the judge denied the motion. The hearing was postponed to January 2022 to allow both sides to review evidence. On January 7, 2022, Ethan waived his right to a preliminary hearing, sending his case directly to trial. On the same day, his parents requested a bond reduction to $40,000, arguing they were no longer a threat to the community and had no access to firearms. The judge denied the request, upholding their $500,000 bail. On Monday, January 10, 2022, students at Oxford High School began a phased return to classes under a modified schedule. Just 2 days later, Ethan Crumbley appeared virtually in Oakland County Circuit Court, where a not guilty plea was entered on his behalf. That same day, two sisters who survived the attack filed a lawsuit against the Oxford School District and several employees, accusing them of failing to prevent the tragedy. According to the suit, Ethan had exhibited alarming behavior for weeks leading up to the shooting, which included bringing live ammunition to school, leaving a bird's decapitated head in a restroom, and making threats on social media. Despite these warning signs, the sisters claimed that no action was taken by school authorities. The lawsuit also noted a chilling post Ethan made on November 29, 2021, the night before the attack, where he changed his social media profile description to state, "I am death. See you at Oxford tomorrow." Each sister sought over $100 million in damages, citing emotional trauma and the need for extensive medical treatment. One sister had been shot in the neck while the other narrowly avoided injury. By November 2024, this lawsuit was still unresolved as legal proceedings dragged on. On February 22, 2022, Ethan appeared in court for a hearing on his lawyer's request to transfer him from Oakland County Jail to the Children's Village Juvenile Detention Center. The next day, his parents, Jennifer and James Crumbley, appeared in court for their preliminary hearing. A judge ruled there was sufficient evidence to proceed with involuntary manslaughter charges against them, with a trial set for January 2023. On March 1st, Ethan's request to be moved to a juvenile facility was denied, and he was ordered to remain in the county jail. Shortly after, the Crumbleys' lawyers appealed to the Michigan Supreme Court, seeking to dismiss the manslaughter charges against the parents. They argued there was no legal connection between their actions and Ethan's crimes. The case took a dramatic turn on October 24, 2022, when Ethan, then 16, pled guilty to all 24 charges against him, including first-degree murder and terrorism causing death. Wearing an orange prison uniform, Ethan calmly answered the judge's questions, admitting that he had asked his father to purchase the firearm used in the attack and had even contributed money for the purchase. He also confirmed that the gun had been locked away before he took it and placed it in his backpack. Prosecutors clarified that Ethan's plea was made without any sentencing deals or reductions. Oakland County's lead prosecutor highlighted the historic nature of the case, noting that it was the first time a school shooter had been convicted of state-level terrorism charges. The guilty plea ensured that all survivors could testify about how the tragedy had affected their lives if they chose to. Ethan's lawyer stated that her client regretted his actions, had taken full responsibility, and did not know the students he had targeted. On November 30, 2022, the Oxford community marked the first anniversary of the shooting with a quiet remembrance, as the sentencing phase loomed. In July 2023, a special hearing commenced to determine Ethan's sentence. This process evaluated whether a life sentence without parole would be appropriate for a minor convicted of first-degree murder. Over several weeks, prosecutors argued for the harshest sentence possible, while Ethan's defense presented evidence against life imprisonment. Though the hearing concluded on August 18th, the judge delayed his decision until December 8th. However, in a surprising move, the judge announced on September 29th that he sided with the prosecution, determining that Ethan could be sentenced to life without parole despite his age. Finally, on November 8, 2023, Ethan Crumbley, by then 17 years old, was formally sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for the deadly November 30, 2021 attack. The case closed one chapter of a tragedy that left an indelible mark on the Oxford community. Ethan became the first minor sentenced to life without parole following the 2012 U.S. Supreme Court ruling that such penalties should be reserved for the rarest cases. The sentencing hearing included hours of emotional victim impact statements from survivors and families of those who died in the attack. A victim's mother spoke first, recalling the harrowing moment she saw her daughter's lifeless body. She insisted that her daughter was more than a statistic. She was a beloved individual whose memory deserved to be honored. Another victim's father described his family's ongoing torment, vowing to keep his son's memory alive while expressing hope that Ethan would spend his life in prison. While Ethan's fate was sealed, the legal battle for his parents, Jennifer and James Crumbley, continued into 2024. A judge ruled that the parents would face separate trials after waiting more than 2 years for proceedings to begin. Jennifer's trial commenced on January 24, 2024. Taking the stand in her defense, she claimed she saw no signs of distress in Ethan and placed blame on James for failing to secure the firearm, the school for not informing them of Ethan's troubling behavior, and Ethan himself for planning the attack. Her lawyer argued that prosecuting the Crumbleys set a dangerous precedent, potentially holding all parents accountable for their children's actions. Despite the defense's arguments, the jury unanimously found Jennifer guilty on February 6 of 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter. She became the first person in the U.S. convicted of crimes committed by a minor child. James faced a similar fate in March, as his trial concluded with a guilty verdict. Both trials revealed consistent themes. The Crumbleys ignored Ethan's cries for help, refused to take him home after his disturbing drawings were discovered, and knowingly gave him access to a firearm despite his declining mental health and hallucinations. On April 9, 2024, the Crumbleys were sentenced to 15 years in prison, with a minimum of 10 years before eligibility for parole. The case resurfaced in July 2024 when reports revealed that Thomas Matthew Crooks, a suspect in an attack on then-presidential candidate Donald Trump, had researched Ethan and his family. This connection brought renewed attention to the tragic Oxford shooting, emphasizing its lasting impact on the nation. The Oxford tragedy also sparked significant debate about holding parents accountable for their children's crimes. While some argued the Crumbleys' convictions could deter neglect, others worried about overreach in parental responsibility. The case influenced Michigan lawmakers to classify gun violence as a public health crisis and revisit stalled gun control legislation. As of the latest updates, Ethan's legal team has appealed his life sentence, seeking consideration for a reduced penalty. They requested an expert witness to testify about Ethan's troubled upbringing and potential struggles with undiagnosed mental health issues. The court's response to this appeal remains pending. What do you think about this case? Do you agree with the parents' convictions? Do you believe Ethan deserves a chance at rehabilitation? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for tuning in to Unreal True Crime. If you're intrigued by mysteries from around the world, check out our new channel, Latin Crimes, where we dive into the gripping true crime stories of Latin America. Don't miss out. Subscribe now for more thrilling investigations.